I still remember that night as though it were etched into my mind with a blade. It was November 14th, 1995, in Beijing. The air was heavy, almost oppressive, carrying with it the bitter edge of approaching winter. I had missed my earlier transport and ended up at the bus stop far later than I had intended, standing beneath the dim, flickering street lamp that seemed barely able to cut through the darkness. It was midnight when I found myself waiting for the last bus of the night, Route 375, the one that traveled from Yuanminghuan to Shangshan, the fragrant hills. The stop was nearly deserted. Just one other soul shared the silence with me, an old man, though some who later retold the story said it was an old woman. To this day, I cannot swear with absolute certainty. All I know is that the figure beside me was frail, shoulders bent by age, but eyes sharp and watchful even in the darkness. We exchanged polite words at first, the kind of murmured conversation strangers use to keep loneliness at bay. I noticed how the night seemed strangely muffled, as though the city sounds had all retreated. Even the usual hum of distant traffic was absent. It was only the two of us waiting. At last, headlights pierced the gloom. Bus 375 lumbered into view, brakes hissing as it came to a stop before us. Midnight bus, the final one of its route. A shiver passed over me, though I could not say why. Perhaps it was the lateness of the hour, or perhaps some instinct I should have heeded. The old man and I boarded. Inside, the bus was nearly empty. Only the driver sat at the wheel, his profile cast in hard lines by the dashboard glow, and a female ticket collector who stood near the middle of the aisle. No other passengers. The air inside felt stale, as if it had been closed up for too long. The old man took a seat near the front, his posture rigid, his eyes always darting to the windows as though scanning for something unseen. I chose a seat a couple of rows behind, trying to relax, though I couldn't shake a faint unease. The fluorescent lights above buzzed softly, filling the silence that stretched between us. Not long into our journey, the driver slowed. I saw, through the glass, two shadows by the roadside waving for the bus. He stopped, and the doors groaned open. 3 figures boarded. 2 men, each grasping an arm of a third, who slumped between them as though he could not walk on his own. They held him under the shoulders, dragging him forward. His head hung low, chin pressed against his chest, so I could not see his face. His clothes were disheveled, dirty, as though he had crawled through some ditch. The moment they entered, the atmosphere shifted. The silence deepened. The air grew cold. I could feel it, the way dread sometimes presses against your skin without explanation. The driver said nothing, and the ticket collector's expression was unreadable. The 3 new passengers moved slowly toward the back of the bus. I remember glancing toward the old man, wondering if he felt the same unease I did. His eyes were narrowed, fixed on them with an intensity that made me nervous. The bus resumed its course, engine humming steadily, carrying us deeper into the night. Then, unexpectedly, the old man turned in his seat and glared at me. His voice rang out, sharp and accusatory. You stole my wallet!" I froze. What? No, I didn't. But he was insistent, raising his voice until it filled the bus, accusing me again and again. The words tumbled out with such fury that I could not get a word in. The driver finally cursed under his breath, pulled to the side of the road, and demanded we both get off if we could not keep the peace. Protesting seemed useless. The old man seized my arm, dragging me toward the door with surprising strength. The ticket collector frowned but said nothing. And so, moments later, I found myself standing in the cold night air, watching as the bus doors closed and the vehicle roared away, its taillights dwindling into the darkness. I turned on the old man, my voice rising with anger. Why would you accuse me of something I didn't do? What was that about? He looked at me, and the fury that had twisted his face moments earlier was gone. His eyes were calm, though filled with something I can only describe as grave knowledge. I saved your life, he said softly. I stared at him, incredulous. Those 3 passengers, he continued, voice low. Did you not see it? They had no feet, they were not walking, they were floating, they were not living people. A chill ran through me, deeper than the cold night air. My mind reeled. Had I truly seen them? Or had I simply been too blind, too unwilling to notice? The old man placed a hand on my shoulder. Come, we must go to the police. We walked through the deserted streets until we found the nearest police station. The fluorescent lights inside were blinding after the darkness outside. We reported what had happened, recounting every detail. the three strange passengers, the fight, the bus vanishing into the night. The officers listened, but their expressions betrayed disbelief. They exchanged glances and muttered under their breath. I could tell what they thought, that we were drunk or unwell or simply making up ghost stories to pass the night. Frustrated and humiliated, we were sent away, our testimony written down but dismissed. I thought perhaps that would be the end of it. But the next morning, the news spread. Bus 375, the final bus of the night, had vanished. Gone, along with the driver and the ticket lady. The bus company issued a statement acknowledging its disappearance. The police, alarmed now, came searching for us. The old man and me, the very witnesses they had scorned the night before. We were interviewed on the news, our faces pale, our voices trembling as we repeated the same story to the cameras. Still, the real horror did not come until the third day. That was when the bus was found. It lay submerged in a water reservoir nearly 100 kilometers from its route destination at Shangshan, Fragrant Hills. The discovery stunned everyone. How it had traveled so far, unnoticed and without sufficient fuel to make the journey. Inside the bus, investigators found 3 corpses. The bodies were grotesquely decomposed, far beyond what 48 hours could have wrought. Even in the sweltering heat of summer, such rapid decay would have been unnatural, and this was November. The police conducted autopsies, searching for signs of tampering, of chemical interference, of anything that could explain the state of the remains. But no evidence of deliberate meddling was found. More chilling still was the condition of the bus itself. The petrol tank, which should have been bone dry after such a journey, was not only full, it was filled not with fuel, but with fresh blood. The horror of that revelation swept through the city like wildfire. Newspapers whispered of ghosts, of omens, of restless spirits haunting the route. Scientists were brought in, cameras examined, every entrance to the reservoir reviewed frame by frame. Yet no camera had captured anything unusual. The bus had simply vanished from the streets, traveled a distance impossible to explain, and reappeared in the water, bearing with it only death and questions that no one could answer. I think back to the old man often, his sharp eyes, his sudden fury, his calm explanation after saving me. Had he known, truly known, what those passengers were? Or was it instinct, the kind of wisdom only age and long years of watching the world can grant? What I know is this: had I remained on that bus, had I dismissed him and stayed in my seat, my body might have been found among those 3 decomposed corpses. Perhaps mine would have been the 4th, twisted and bloated, another impossible mystery. To this day, the story of Midnight Bus 375 remains unsolved. The police never released further answers, if they ever found them. Theories abound, whispered in markets and told late at night to frighten children. Some say it was a supernatural encounter, others that it was some bizarre crime covered up, or an accident twisted into legend by fear. But I was there. I know what I saw. And I cannot forget the way the air felt when those 3 figures boarded, or the old man's voice telling me they were not living. That night has haunted me ever since. Some evenings, when the streets are empty and a bus rolls past, I catch myself watching the shadows within, looking for feet that may or may not touch the ground. And I wonder, as I always will, what truly happened to Midnight Bus 375.